So let's get started on day 3. We are going to be talking about engaging your people today. So in day 1, we talked about nurturing relationships. What are those relationships that matter, and how do we develop some strategies to energize them and keep them engaged in what it is that we're doing around our launch? The second day, we talked about inspiring results. And it was less from the operational plan aspect, because we've got to get that operational plan down, our what. But how do we make sure we're really crystal clear on our why? When we get crystal clear on our why, our mission, our belief, our cause, what we stand for, and our what and our how flow from that, that is what energizes people and gets them excited and inspired to be a part of what it is that we're doing. Today, we're going to talk about engaging people, because it isn't just about getting them inspired. We got to keep them hanging out with us to really make our launch successful. So how do we engage people? Now, Gallup is an organization that does a ton of surveys. You've probably heard of them. And they specialize in an area called employee engagement. So we're talking about engaging your people today, so it makes sense that we would take a look at what Gallup says about it. And Gallup does lots of employee engagement surveys, and one of the results that they found on their recent survey was that 33% of U.S. employees are engaged in their work. That's a third of the workforce that loves what they do when they get up every morning to go and do it. 16% are actively disengaged, which they don't like getting out of bed to go to work. They don't like their work. They might even be resistant or be frustrated at work. And so we've got this disparity between 33% that are really energized and excited to go to work, and 13% or 16% that are actively disengaged. All the people in the middle are just kind of there. They're not giving their best at work, and they're not really energized by what they do. So we definitely have some work to do in the U.S. workforce, but how does that apply to us in ministries? Some of the research shows that those numbers of engagement, like 33% are actively and energized and engaged in their work, that can be higher by organizations that have a clear sense of mission. So if we've done our good job in our day 2 and we got clear on our why, and we have a clear sense of mission, it actually draws people into our organization. They want to be a part of what it is that we're doing. That bigger sense of mission actually engages people. Now, that same research also shows, though, that a clear sense of mission combined with a toxic work environment is a setup for disaster. That does not engage people. So clear mission is not enough. People also need a healthy work environment. We're not talking about a healthy work environment in our course today, but I wanted to make sure that I highlight that clear mission is powerful, but it's not enough. We also need to be actively involved in caring for our people. We are going to be talking about that today in our course. How do we engage our people? Another thing that really impacts engagement that I think is an advantage for us in ministry is that smaller organizations are 8 to 12% more likely to have engaged employees. Organizations that are 25 people or less are more agile. They can move things around. They can have the kind of conversations that are necessary to help people get energized and excited about the work that they do. They can shift and move roles to make sure that people are really engaged in what they're doing. So if you're even 50 people or less, you've probably got a fairly agile organization. Now, I know some of you don't have employees, and you're like, well, employee engagement, how does that apply to me? Well, they've done research also on volunteers. And some of you have volunteers that are working with you. You have partners or collaborators. All of these people need to be energized and excited about your launch as well. And the research around volunteers shows that volunteers need 2 things: to give freely of their time, to give of their energy and their efforts and their best self. They need 2 things. They need relationships. They want to work with or do their volunteer work with people that they like. They want to enjoy the relationship. So they do it for relationship connection. The other reason that volunteers do what they do is for an opportunity to grow or develop in areas where maybe they want to offer the skill that they have, or develop a new skill, or ramp up, level up a skill that they have. Those are the reasons that volunteers will often do what they do. So it's all about doing it with people that you like and doing what you love. And that's true for all of us. So employees need that, volunteers need that, our collaborators, our partners, anybody involved in our launch is going to need to do what they love with people that they like. So as we go through talking about employee engagement and talking about people engagement, keep those two things in mind. The last statistic I'm going to throw at you before we dive in is that with the Gallup research, they showed that 59% of employees are more likely to be engaged or even highly engaged when their manager or leader is engaged. That really, 59% as compared to like 33% from that original number. So you have ramped up or increased your chances of engaging your people significantly if you also are engaged in what you do. So as we talk about people engagement, you also have to be thinking about you. What engages you? What keeps you energized? Because if you're getting yourself burnt out and you're doing things that aren't easy, that don't come easy, that are hard for you to do, that take a lot of effort and take a lot of energy for you to do, and you're exhausting yourself in the process of your launch, guess what? It's going to be harder for you to engage the people around you. So be thinking not only as we talk about what engages people, what engages you. So what is the work that you love and who are the people that you want to do that with? Because that matters. If you are doing that, then it's going to just flow out to everybody else and they're going to be energized and excited right along with you, along with some of the strategies that we're going to talk about today. So most of you know that I am a Myers Briggs certified guru. Can I call myself a guru? I pretty much know anything Myers Briggs inside and out. And I like all assessments, and I've studied a lot of different assessments, and I use a lot of different assessments in the work that I do as a coach and trainer and facilitator. We are going to touch into some Myers Briggs stuff today, because really light, because Myers Briggs is really great at helping us understand quickly what are the things that energize us, what are the ways that we prefer to work, and what gets us excited in the work that we do. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Now, I talk about Myers Briggs work styles in like a 3-hour course. I could do a whole day on this. So we're going to touch on it super light. But what I want to use it for is as a springboard for us to have language or conversation to be able to know what engages us, and then maybe springboard that into a conversation with the people around us. Assessments are never a substitute for conversation. They can be a springboard for understanding, which is great. We want to use them for that, but they're never a substitute for conversation. So one of the challenges with Myers Briggs and any assessment actually is it's putting you in a box, it's putting you in a category, and it's giving you a label and giving you language to be able to understand that. And that's what's powerful. The language is powerful, but sometimes the putting in the box is also limiting. And so recognizing that even as we talk about these 4 different work styles that we're going to talk about right now, none of us fit neatly into one of those boxes. We have flavors from all 4 of the work styles that we're going to talk about today, but knowing which one most likely represents the way you prefer to work can be really powerful at helping you assign roles, helping you decide what you want to delegate and what you want to keep, knowing who to delegate it to based on their work styles. And so that's a really powerful way to use a tool like this, is to actually springboard into a conversation that can help you delegate, decide roles, and know how to keep yourself engaged so that you can engage your team. So let's look at these 4 different work styles. So I've given them names. This isn't necessarily Myers Briggs like material, but I've taken the Myers Briggs assessment and really looked at how can we give it a language that helps us quickly understand it, especially in the next 3 minutes that I'm going to share it with you. So I've got another graphic for you, and this will be in your handouts if you download those. So these are the 4 work styles, or the 4 quadrants that you see here. And we're going to talk about each of these, and there's a lot of detail actually in your handout today about these 4. I left enough detail in there because I want you to go through all the different words that are describing each one of these 4 and underline first, what are the words that describe you, what connects to you, and then think about your people and what describes them. But I want to talk about these 4 just a minute. Up here in the corner here is the problem solver. Now the problem solver is all about seeing details and facts. They solve problems quickly. That's why they're called the problem solver. So if you present them with a situation, you start talking to them about something, they are going to be able to get to the root of the problem quickly and be ready to advise about that. They're going to look for flaws and weaknesses and ready to improve it. They're going to ask lots of questions, And they're going to focus on the goal or the plan. They are your next step people. They are going to put that plan together and get ready to act on it. That's your problem solver. So then we've got over here your strategic thinker. So on the other side of our page is our strategic thinker. And our strategic thinker also likes to solve problems, but is very much into coming up with an inventive approach to deal with those challenges. They think strategically, and they want to set strategy, and they want to be able to cast vision. When they're looking at data, instead of seeing details and facts and figures, they're noticing the patterns and the trends of things. And they ask a lot of curious questions because they want to analyze what's going on and get below the hood of what's going on. They don't want to just solve a problem. They want to get to the root of the problem so that they make sure they're not solving a symptom. So they see connections, consequences, and they're very results oriented. So then I want to come down here to our compassionate connector. Our compassionate connector is also about the details, much like our problem solver. They like the details, but the details that matter to them are the ones that involve people, because they're very focused on people. They want to see people's needs, and they want to be able to meet people's needs. So they take a very common sense approach to how they're going to do things. They ask questions to gather details about people. They are empathetic towards other people's situation. They take on their cause, and they're compassionate. They want to connect that person that has a need to the resources that are going to help them meet that need. They will make plans, and they will follow through on those plans when it impacts people. So they care about the plans that impact people. Our last group over here is our bridge builders. Now, our bridge builders, they love metaphors and analogies. So you're going to hear them doing a lot of making connections to things through metaphors and analogies. It's how they make sense of the world around them. They like to bring people into agreement and seek common ground among people. They love ideas and brainstorming those ideas. They're all about deepening the relationships. They're not so much about the steps or the sequence like our problem solvers here. And they tend to go in tangents so that they can explore all the possibilities that generate ideas. They can see outside of the box because they follow the trail of where it leads. So these are our 4 different work styles. And so you know that, like, thinking even just as I described those 4 work styles, and there's been much more description in your worksheets, is it's like even as I described those 4 styles, one of them probably connected with you more than the others. Maybe 2 of them, you fell into kind of 2. So you could put your foot in one camp and your foot in another camp. And so there's a connection that you have, and you think about, oh my gosh, if you have like that tangential idea brainstorming approach to the way that you work, but you get assigned a role that says you need to create a plan, follow the steps, make a Gantt chart, do the timelines, you're like going, whoa. And if you're a problem solver and you're ready to like get things done and make things happen and move forward, and you have to sit in meetings where they're brainstorming and talking about ideas, doesn't it just suck all the energy out of you? Problem solvers of all the groups, they hate meetings. Get the meeting over as quickly as we can. That's what problem solvers, and so that we can get to doing it. That's what it's all about. So these 4 work styles are all about really figuring out what energizes us and then using them as a way to figure out what energizes others. Assessments are if we are just simply using assessments to get to know ourselves and feel good about ourselves, that really does come down to just navel gazing. And I don't think assessments are useful if we stop there. So we can take a look at this and figure out where to plot ourselves, but it's so that, there's a so that there. It's so that we can energize and excite someone else to do what they do best. Well, we have to know what they do best, and this can help us understand as a springboard to understand what it is that they do best and might do best, but it's not enough. We also have to have a conversation with them. So your activity today is something that you may not be able to get all done today, but I want you to get started. So when you go to your worksheet, on the back side of your worksheet is like a blank, like this thing right here, blank, no words in it. And I want you to go back to that list in day 1. Remember your people? The list that we listed out that you need to nurture relationships with? Look at that list and pick out those people who are doing it with you, the ones that are in it with you, that are doing the work with you. And I want you to pick out where they land, plot them on that worksheet on page 2, and figure out where do they fit in these 4 different work styles, and where do you fit in this 4 different work styles. A couple of things to pay attention to is that will be a springboard for you to have a conversation with them. What is it that truly energizes them, and ask them some questions about that. The second thing that is really important about taking a look at that is where you're at and where your people are at. Some of the things I notice when we are launching a new thing that we've never done before, it is our natural tendency to surround ourselves with people like us. So if you're a strategic thinker and all of your people are like you and in that strategic thinker corner, you got to start looking for other people. Because in order for you to launch well, you are going to need some problem solvers. You're going to need some compassionate connectors, and you're going to need some bridge builders. In somewhere in your list of people, you want to have people that are in each of these categories. Now, when you're launching, depending on how you're launching and what you are launching, you may need more people in one quadrant over the other. So we're not looking for balance here, but we're looking for being able to spread out the work styles so that we have people that are energized and excited about all different aspects of what it is that we're doing. So having conversations with people is probably not going to happen for you today. But I want you to know that that's your next step after this course is done. Once you get yourself plotted here, once you get your people plotted here, then it's really important to take a look at what are the conversations that I need to have to make sure that I engage people along the way. Because this is not just about engaging yourself. It's not just about inspiring results or building relationships, but it's so that we can keep people in the place that will help them do what they do best and help us do what we do best.